Welcome to MLT 101, Human Anatomy. My name is HM1 Barnes, and our lesson topic is the nervous system, which is the system that controls and coordinates the activities of the various other body systems through electrochemical impulses, used to send and receive signals to all parts of the body. Your nervous system has two primary functional divisions, the somatic and autonomic nervous system. You can identify between the somatic and the autonomic nervous system based on the type of control and the type of tissue that is stimulated. The autonomic nervous system's type of control is involuntary. You do not consciously control your autonomic nervous system. The way I remember that is I think of the word automatic. Autonomic sounds a lot like automatic. It just does. It conducts impulses that affect activities of your organs, your vessels, and the tissues stimulated are cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, and glands. Your somatic nervous system's type of control is voluntary. It conducts impulses that allow you to consciously control your skeletal muscles. Your somatic nervous system is what lets you move. It is how you control yourself. The fundamental unit of your nervous system is a type of cell called a neuron. It is not the only type of cell in your nervous system, but it is the primary one people talk about most. Neurons are highly complex cells capable of conducting messages in the form of electrochemical impulses that enable your body to interact with its internal and external environment. Your neurons have a cell body containing a nucleus and the organelles typical of other cells, but can also be distinguished by the presence of unique thread-like fibers called dendrites. They look very similar to the roots of a tree spreading out into the ground, and an axon that extends out away from the cell body. The axon resembles very closely the trunk of a tree. The dendrites look a lot like the roots of a tree. Dendrites carry messages to the nerve cell. Axons carry messages away from the nerve cell. Dendrites receive, axons send. The two main structural divisions of your nervous system are the central nervous system and your peripheral nervous system. Your central nervous system consists of your brain, which is the command center that interprets information and dictates responses, and your spinal cord. Every part of your body is in direct communication with your central nervous system through its own set of nerves that all come together in one trunk in your back that forms the spinal cord. The brain and spinal cord are surrounded and cushioned by a cavity filled with a clear plasma-like fluid called CSF. The cavity is completely enclosed and protected by 3 layers of connective tissue called meninges. When CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, is needed for testing, the physician will perform a lumbar puncture, often called a spinal tap, entering that cavity with a very large and painful needle, and they will obtain a cerebrospinal fluid sample. When you receive a cerebrospinal fluid sample, it is not something you received because the doctor was curious. It is something you received because it absolutely was necessary to diagnose a serious condition that the patient is going through. People don't just casually spinal tap someone. It is a serious thing every time it happens. If you receive a spinal fluid sample, referred to from here on out as CSF, it's always going to be a stat test, short turnaround time. That means you have to have that sample fully tested and all the results of that testing reported out in under an hour. It is typically thought of as your absolute highest priority thing. You receive a CSF sample, you drop everything else you're doing, and you focus on that CSF sample in your laboratory. The only exception to that is if you have a blood banking emergency because one of the patients in the hospital is actively bleeding out. That is the only thing in your lab that will take precedence over testing CSF. The peripheral nervous system is going to consist of all the nerves that connect to the central nervous system and the rest of the body. The 2 main types of nerves that you have are your motor or efferent nerves. They send signals out. Then you have your sensory or afferent nerves. They receive signals and bring the information in. Efferent, your motor nerves, will carry impulses from your central nervous system to your organs, your glands, and your muscles. Afferent, your sensory nerves, will receive data from your sensory receptors, such as hot or cold, pain, or touch, pressure, and they will bring that into the central nervous system.